Nelson Mandela was a civil rights activist from South Africa during the period of apartheid. He has become one of the biggest political figures in history and even became the first African American president in South Africa. His death in 2013 was a very tragic event, but it also brought up a bit of confusion for a lot of people. Many people have believed that Nelson Mandela died when he was in prison long before he actually passed. People vividly remember his funeral, riots that sparked from his death, and even a speech from his wife about his passing. It's one thing to have a faulty memory or misunderstanding certain events, but how can potentially thousands of people have the same misinterpretation? This widespread bewilderment led to the birth of the Mandela effect. The Mandela effect refers to the apparently real alternate memories of a history that doesn't match the documented history in this reality. The speculation of Nelson Mandela's death is an example of the Mandela effect. There is no given reason to why we as humans experience the Mandela effect, but there are tons of speculations, which we'll get to later. It's not just Mandela's death that people seem to mistake. There are plenty of other examples. The one that is getting the most attention recently revolves around one of the most best-selling children's book series, The Berenstain Bears. The Berenstain Bears was about a family of bears doing everyday human activity, such as visiting the dentist or cleaning a messy room, while providing morals and lessons for children to learn. Most people remember the Berenstain Bears being spelled Berenstein. However, instead of Steen, the actual pronunciation is Stain, as in Berenstain Bears. It's one thing for someone to misread something, but how can so many people misread what was a big part of their childhood? Spelling is one thing, however. How about forgetting lines in some of the most well-known movies of all time? Even if you haven't seen a single Star Wars movie, you have most likely heard the famous quote, "Luke, I am your father." But is that what he really said? If you hear the line from the official movie, this is what Darth Vader actually says.
No, I am your father.
That's right, he doesn't even say Luke's name in that line. "Luke, I am your father" is one of the most famous lines muttered in film history, and it isn't even in the movie. Another incorrect movie line happens in Forrest Gump. From what the movie says, life isn't like a box of chocolates after all.
My mom always said life was like a box of chocolates.
It was like a box of chocolates. Hearing something differently is one thing. What about seeing something that isn't actually there? That's what many people did with Curious George. Curious George was a book series and a cartoon about a monkey who always got into mischief. Look at Curious George's design. It's missing something a monkey usually has. That would be a tail. Monkeys have tails, so how does Curious George not have one? Was Curious George a chimp the whole time and nobody noticed it? It's another fascinating mystery that gets more confusing when you talk about it. The last few examples we will be talking about include some of the most popular brand names of all time. Let's start with Febreeze. Logically, it'd be spelled like F-E and then breeze, like a breeze in the air. That's why it's called Febreeze. However, that's not the case. Yep, it's spelled with 2 E's, not 3, like we always thought. Okay, that's understandable. Human eyes can work in a way where they can be easily tricked. What about one of the biggest shoe brand ever, SKECHERS? It's spelled S-K-E-T-C-H-E-R-S, right? Well, that spelling is incorrect. There has never been a T in SKECHERS. Let's move on to one of the most beloved bologna company, Oscar Mayer. Everyone knows that it's spelled O-S-C-A-R-M-E-Y-E-R. There's even a song about it.
My bologna has a first name, it's O-S-C-A-R. My bologna has a second name, it's M-A-Y-E-R.
Or it's spelled Mayer, as in...
Keep on waiting on the world to change.
Yeah. So all of these people have a flawed memory bank. How is it possible? What does it mean? While there is no scientific or psychological reason given, there are tons of theories explaining why the Mandela effect is around. Some popular explanations include time travelers changing history, or that the universe is just a virtual reality and there are some glitches. The most agreed on theory is that we as humans are actually jumping into parallel universes where the most minute details are being changed. Could it be possible? It's hard to tell considering how grand our universe is, but it doesn't seem too likely. Sorry about that. Whether we are traveling in an alternate universe or not is debatable, and there is no proof of it as of now. However, it is fascinating and strange that a human can remember something that didn't actually exist. There are plenty of other examples too. In the end, the way the universe works is very strange, and whether any of these phenomena will be explained, we will never know.